Part of the deal, you gotta put on a little show, like that.
Of course, gotta make it fun.
That's right, I know. Who wants a boring teacher? All right, so take out a sheet of paper. Since we don't want a boring teacher, let's do some boring things. Hello, come on right in. Sheet of paper, we haven't started yet. Tom. Yeah, so this is the last class before the test. Tom. So the first term I want you to tell me is, ooh, look at that, we're opening the skull up already. Holy moly. And keep watching those videos a few times. So the first term I want you to tell me is when we look from top down into the skull, the front of the head, the face is the front of the head, and then there's a hole, that's the foramen magnum, and there is a ridge right next to the foramen magnum, and I want you to tell me, what is that ridge called? That's a landmark. What is that landmark called? This ridge is important because inside that bone we have the hearing apparatus carved out. It's really cool. So it's a ridge on the inside of the skull. A ridge on the inside of the skull. Right here. See it? That ridge. What is that called? Number one. There you go. Number two. Hello, come on right in. Number two is we're still having the skull open. This is still the front. We're looking down. They're right in the front, above the nose. There's a thing sticking up. And there is a little area that has little holes in it. What is that area with the little holes in it called? Right there, a little thing sticking up and then the holes around it. Oh yeah, right, there you go. You said you don't know this stuff. It's better than you think. There. That's the bone. It's the breathing, the nerves that make us smell go through these little holes. And the olfactory nerves. Well, actually, the olfactory nerves, they start when the things come through the holes after that. All right, so that's number two. Number three, we take, I didn't bring out a sacrum. Oh, no, here's you guys did. So good, thank you. We have us a sacrum. And that's the back of the sacrum where it's rounded like inward, like that way. And then the front of the sacrum is the other way. We have a couple of landmarks. In the front, I have these lines here. These things that go across. What are those things called? This is a landmark on the sacrum. What are those lines called here in the front? They used to be the intervertebral disc between the spine, which makes us able to move around, bend up and down. But the sacrum doesn't bend. So there's just bowing. But we have these lines that tell us that we used to have things there. All right, so that's that question, and that was number three, I believe. Yes, it was. Number four, we go into the upper extremities. So we're holding the shoulder, the thing somehow, maybe. There you go. So this is like that in my shoulder, okay? So we have a shoulder blade, and what I want you to tell me is, what is that ridge called that I'm grabbing here? What is that ridge called on the back side of the shoulder blade? That ridge back here. What is that called? That ridge back here. You can grab yours with your fingers, that ridge back here. And that's, I believe, number four. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Number five. Cinque is when we go to the arm bone here, the humerus. We have a landmark on the outside of the shaft, about midsection. You can feel it on your own self. It's a roughage. What is that roughage called? It's where this bone attaches in. This muscle here. This muscle attaches into the roughage. What is that called? Hint. The name is according to the muscle up here that goes into that part.
What number is this?
Number five. Yeah, now you just have a second word. You're good.
Really?
Yeah, you're good. What's the second word after that? Look on the humerus. There you go. So that's number 5. And then number 6, we're going to jump over the facial muscles today. We're going to go right to this puppy. So we're going to spend a little time on this, which is the arm, which is a left arm. All right? The first term I want you to tell me is number 6. Is that muscle over here on the shoulder, the one that goes into the bump that we just talked about? What is that muscle called up here? That muscle here. What is that muscle called? That's right where that bump goes in. So the name is familiar. You get 2 in 1 right there, practically. So you got that because you wrote it down already. I know. Good job. Hi. All right, so that's number 6. Number 7, we're going to take the rubber band away, so not everything falls down. But we're going to take this off, this first bone here, muscle. Sorry, it's not a bone, it's a muscle. I'm going to take this out, so I'm not going to cut mine out, but that's what we do. Take this off like that. And then underneath it is a big fat muscle. What is that muscle called? It's the main elbow flexor. It's the main muscle that bends the elbow. What is that muscle called? Hint, hint. The name is around what the region here is called. Remember chapter 1, that region. What is that called? The upper arm region. So what's that muscle called? And I believe that's number 7.
7.
You move right along. All right, got that. Number 8. Now we're going to the shoulder. So I'm going to take the muscle number 7 away here. Or, no, muscle number 6. Take muscle number 6 off. And then I got this nice exposed shoulder blade here in the back. And then underneath here, the front, it's down there where it goes on to the rib cage. So I got a few muscles here. I got 3 in the back and 1 in the front. I want you to tell me the top one in the back, the one that lays above that ridge, that landmark that we had in the previous question. What is that muscle called, the one on top? Look under rotator cuffs, if you had notes. The top one. All right, and then we go jump over that ridge and go below. And below there, we have a few muscles. We got one that's pretty big. I don't want that one. I want the one that's below. That's a small little thing. And then below that, there's another one. But you can see one goes to the back of the shoulder, to the humerus there, and one goes underneath. We don't want the one that goes underneath. We want the one that's on top. So that small thing on top here. So not this big one, the one right underneath. It still is a rotator cuff, okay? And it is not the lowest one. The lowest one goes with your latissimus dorsi, this big muscle here. That's not a rotator cuff. I want that small sucker right above that. No, that was a tough one. Good. So that's good. That was what, number 8?
9.
Oh. You're almost done. And now is another one. This is, you want to pay attention to this one. So let's put this one back in. So we got this back in there. So we got all the muscles back together except the shoulder. But now we're going to the forearm. And I want you to tell me, so this is how it is in your body. This here is this here. And this muscle here is on the ridge. It goes all the way up to a little bit of the humerus, and then all the way down almost to the thumb, to the wrist here. It's a long muscle. It's a long name too. What is that muscle called? It's sort of dividing muscle between the back of the forearm and the front of the forearm. right on top. And it's really not a forearm muscle, it's really a muscle that moves the elbow joint. We'll go through it afterwards. No, I'm not skimping on you guys. These are the tough ones. And this stuff you only just learned, so it's okay if it's not quite coming up easy. All right. So now let's solve the quizzy. Number 1, you just shout it out, whatever you have right, whatever you think it is. Number 1, what was number 1? Anyone? The petrous portion, very good. Inside here we have the ear stuff carved out. So it's right behind the ear, and then we hear, and then the brain says, oh, look at that, we heard something.
Wait, what was it?
Petrous portion. Petrous portion. Very good. Then number 2 is that thing in the front when you look down into the skull. In the front there's a bump, and next to the bump is this thing with holes in it. What's that whole thing called? Yeah, anybody who knows, shout it out. Cribriform plate, very good. The crista galli is the little stump coming up here. So that's also on the list. Alright, so if you're unsure about a term because it's too close to the other, guess what? I'm going to take both terms if it's on a test. So don't get anxiety over that. Alright? That's like, I mean, you know, if it's not anatomy based, that you don't know it and you should know it, and it's anatomy, if it's like other things, I'm on your side. So don't get anxiety about these things, all right? I know how it feels, I get it. And then number 3 are on the sacrum. What are these called?
Was it the transverse line?
The transverse lines, or also transverse ridges sometimes in textbooks you find that described the sense. Very, very good. And then we went right to the arm. And we did the back here, the ridge. What's that ridge called back here? The spine of the scapula, very, very good. And from there, we went to the outside of the humerus, this roughage here on the side. What is that called?
Deltoid tuberosity.
Very good. The deltoid tuberosity brings us right to the next muscle, which was the deltoid muscle. Excellent. So see how that all plays together after a while. A little bit, right? And then I don't need to hold this anymore because now we went to the muscle, then we took the biceps brachii away. What's underneath the biceps brachii? Brachialis, very good. See, you guys know all this stuff. And if it's wrong, sometimes don't worry about it. Just, I make so many mistakes when I try to teach it, and I have to say it again because it came out wrong. So don't worry about it. Just say it. And then, so we have the delta, we have the brachialis, and then we go to the shoulder blade muscles, the rotator cuff muscles. We have the one that's above the spine of the scapula. What is that called? Anyone? Spine of the scapula, supra, above, spinatus. Yeah, there you go. Supraspinatus, above the spine of the scapula. See that in the verb? Spinatus are for spine. So you look at that connections, make as many connections as you can, so then you remember these things easier. And then the next one was even harder because now we're going to the lower part, below the spine of the scapula, the one below, the big one is called the infraspinatus, but that wasn't the one I wanted. I wanted the small sliver on the bottom. What was that called? Anybody?
Was that
Almost.
minor?
The teres minor. And then the one at the bottom that goes into the armpit. That's where you want. That goes into the armpit. That's the teres major. All right? Very good. So review that video when I put it up. Try to put it up soon. Review that a couple of times. Because these are important things. And then the last term, I think it's the last term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody got that forearm muscle? Take a guess. A long shot guess. It's the brachioradialis. So that muscle goes all the way up to here. So that's pretty far up, like almost like the lower third of the shaft. And then it moves from, so that's the brachial area, right? All the word, if you see the word brachia, you're thinking up here.
Wait, what was it?
The brachioradialis. You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. What was I talking about? So it goes from the lower humerus all the way down to the wrist at the thumb side. Brachioradialis. So any muscle that has the word brachial in it, you're thinking upper arm. And that's where you, once in a while, you're looking at that first chapter, and those terms in the body, it gives you a lot of hints for stuff. It's very good stuff. All right, but you did excellent, so that's a good job.